Okay, so we're going to look at shoulder training a little bit. What we're going to look at is body position and biomechanics to get at the shoulders and keep other supporting muscle groups like the traps, upper back, and the triceps out of it. The big thing with shoulder training, especially when you're getting into different types of raises, is not letting the scapular muscles dominate upper traps and back. So positioning is going to be pretty important. So most people, when they do a lateral raise, will tend to think about bringing either their elbows or the dumbbells up toward the ceiling. Whereas what we actually want to think about is if he does a lateral raise, you don't even need to grab weights yet. So if he comes out for a lateral raise, what you actually want to think about, instead of coming up, which is going to usually force the traps to kick in, is you want to keep the traps down and relaxed, and you want to actually go out. So his goal will be to actually go towards the opposite ends of the room with those weights, so that he's keeping the dumbbell as far away from the shoulder joint as possible, so that we're putting more stress on the muscle with a reduced weight. Okay? Because the farther away from the joint the weight is going to sit, the heavier a lighter weight is going to feel. So if he stays in tight in here, he might be able to come up with pairs of 30s, pairs of 40s, but if we keep everything out here, you can get the same effect on the side head of the delt with probably half the weight. So when he grabs his 20s, so he's going to go straight out towards the ends of the room. So if I keep my hands on the side of his delt, I can actually feel the side head kick in harder, versus if he goes straight up toward the ceiling, I actually feel reduced here, and you can see his strap start to come up. I'll put the weights down. The other thing that you want to look at when you're doing different types of raises is rotation of the humerus. So basically wherever, depending on how his arm is rotated, whatever sits on top is going to be the muscle that's the most stressed. So if he does his lateral raises and he lets his elbow sort of drop down toward the floor, okay, that actually drops the side head of the delt and it puts the anterior side up higher. So even though he's still doing a lateral raise, if he's up like this and the arm is rotated, he's more likely to actually get a little bit more front delt involvement and less lateral delt. So what we actually want to do, we want to rotate the humerus this way, push the side head a little higher. So the conventional advice is usually, treat like you're pouring a glass of water, which is fine, but that doesn't automatically make the upper arm rotate. It can, but a better way to think about it is actually kind of rotate your elbow up toward the ceiling. Because I can turn my wrist and not necessarily have a lot going on here, but if I think of rotating my elbow up, it's going to force the upper arm to actually twist and stack this on top. So go ahead and do a couple of reps that way. So again, going out toward the ends of the room, and then allowing the elbow to rotate up. Okay. Down. Okay, and then kind of continuing to break it down. He's getting a good rotation here, but there's a little bit of a backward lean at the peak of the rep. So you're still going to get the same sort of an issue, is that even though his arm is rotating, if he leans back, again, this is coming up a bit higher and this is dropping. So what I would actually do with him, shove him forward maybe about 15 degrees, so that when he comes up into the side raise, this is again going to be a bit more pronounced. It might drop the amount of weight he's got to use, but again, the weight's not really the factor. Nobody really cares about how much weight you can do for a lateral raise. So, if you're training with somebody, you stick your fingertips right in their scapula, and just when you feel them lean back into you, just give them a little push. So go ahead and grab your weights. So as I feel him lean back, I'm going to keep him here just to keep him honest. So if I'm getting a lot of pressure into my hand, then I might just push him a little harder. That's going to keep him on again. Keeps him up, keeps him a little bit more honest. And then the last part on a lateral raise specifically, the bottom few inches of the exercise are pretty much dead in terms of resistance on the delts. So when he's got his arms hanging straight down, from here, really to about here, all this, the weight is just moving out to the side. So the weight really hasn't started to rise up in the area. It's still kind of staying level. There's really no gravity acting on that weight yet. So the starting position for a lateral raise should actually be out from the side, maybe about 15 or so degrees. And that's where the tension is going to start kicking in on the side of the delt. So as he grabs his weights, I can actually keep my hands right here, so as he comes out, then I can check him right here. So that way his lateral delts stay under tension the whole time. Now if my goal is to kind of extend the set a little bit, when he hits failure, I can drop my hands and he can pull a little bit of momentum out of the bottom. So he's basically getting kind of controlled cheating, but you don't want the set to start that way. I might only do a handful of reps at most, just allowing a little bit of extra momentum. But in general, the goal is to avoid this kind of dead area on the lateral raise. And one thing you can do is he grabs his weights, actually turns sideways on the bench, sit kind of right in the middle of it. So this is something that I'm blatantly ripping off from Joe DeFranco, so I did not think of this. But this is basically a dead stop lateral raise. So if you look at the positions of the dumbbells, they're pretty much out at about that 15 or 20 degrees to the side. So when he raises up, he really has no choice but to pull from here. You can't really draw any sort of momentum until he's working a little harder at this than the other way. So this is a good way to kind of keep that in check too, especially if you don't have a training partner to kind of check your hand position at the bottom, is to go off the dead stop so you can see the side delts kind of lining up a little bit more than the other way. And you can do the same sort of stuff with your front and posterior raises as well. And it's the same sort of concepts as kind of just avoiding, regardless of which direction your raises are going, whether you're doing laterals, front raises, even bent over raises. If you're doing a bent over lateral, same thing. This is all just kind of dead space, so I want to avoid that area, and still try to work. Same concepts. I want to go out, rather than going up, just to keep the stress on the delts. Again, whatever is sitting up the highest is going to receive most of the stress. So, if I go up and I start bringing my upper back into it, those muscles are going to sit a bit higher. They're going to take more of the stress. If I go straight out and keep my shoulder blades actually spread, then my leg posterior delts are going to take a bit more of the stress. So, the big thing with all your raise movements, weight really doesn't mean anything. The point is, where are you inflicting the stress? It's easier on the joints. It's more effective for muscle development. So nobody really cares how much weight you can do for a lateral raise or for a front raise. So keep it light and do it the right way.